Put it in the comments. We want to know what you think about this Lions victory against Kansas City Chiefs. Lions win 24-23. The big story, obviously, Hendon Hooker, overshadowed by the bigger story, Legatron. That's right, Jake Bates, his new nickname, Legatron. Legatron is a registered trademark of the Main Event 365, all rights reserved. All right, so we're going to talk about fantasy football today, so I want to know, put it in the chat, put it in the comments for me. Do you play fantasy football? If you do play fantasy football, I want to know what your team name is. Last year, my team won the trophy, baby. I won the championship in the big money league. I'm going to be having a trophy this damn big next week on this show. Be sure to tune in next week and see me holding this big trophy. 20 years I had this league. I started this league 20 years ago, and I've never won it until last year. In fact, I wouldn't even touch the trophy because I didn't want to jinx it. And I won it. You know why I won it? Because my quarterback, Jalen Hurts. That's why. The name of my team, Hurts So Good. And that's why I won the trophy. So I want to know what your fantasy football team name is. Put it in the chat, and let's talk about it. Also, I happen to be a fantasy guru. You may not know that. Even though I never won the trophy, I always finish top. I got a lot of good tidbits for you guys. If you want some fantasy football advice, throw it in there. Comments. If you got a draft coming up and you don't know what to do, well, should I go receiver first? Should I go running back first? What strategy should I take? I might not even be right, but I can at least give you some avenues to think about. And that's what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that Lions victory, and we're going to talk about some fantasy football and anything else that you guys kick into the chat. So welcome to the show. Great to be here. Also, some very special surprises that I have for you in store today, folks. And that is some very special guests. First guest comes to us from the Huddle Sports Network, and it is Kneecap Biting with Jeremy B. Smoking Jeremy B. is in the house. Also, our longtime friend, one of our compadres, man, who's been with this journey with us on this journey since the beginning. It's the West Coast Stat Master, Greg Rice. Welcome to the show, Greg.
What is up, gentlemen? Thank you for having me again. Sorry it's a little windy out here, and my headset sucks, but we'll get through this.
GRE from the West Coast coming in. He's the biggest Lions fan out in Cali, and we're so glad to have him on the show today. Jeremy, how are you today?
Fantastic. I mean, ready to talk some football. I don't care, fantasy, real, whatever. I don't care, fake, whatever you want to call it.
Right on. Well, two really great guests today. We, of course, have the maestro Russell Wayne behind the glass. He's backstage.
Hey, no attention.
There he is. There he is.
The man standing behind the curtain.
He's going to pop in with an awesome take every now and then. We know that. Before we jump into it, we're going to say hi to some of our folks. Detroit Fan Man, one of my favorites. Here we go. Still can't believe we haven't seen Levi play. What a great call out that is. Elise Memes, she is a goddess of memes. She says, hi, villains. There's Honolulu blue full moon tonight. That's right. It's called a blue moon tonight. The second new moon of the year is called the blue moon for all you trivia buffs.
Hey, Mike.
Jonathan in the house. Haven't seen him in a while. How about Jonathan Taylor Tucky? Woo!
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
I just wanted Elise Memes to know that I have not heard back from the massage job right there for Amon Ra's hamstring massage job. I don't know if that's going to be available or not.
Right on. Jonathan Haight says he wants to talk fantasy right off the bat. I got some good tips for you, Jonathan. I love it. Greg is the stat master for sure. This is going to be a good one. One of the greatest villains out there, Jeffrey Addison in the house, present and accounted for. Thanks for being on the show, sir. Glad to have you here as always. So let's just jump right into this, talking about this Lions victory before we jump to the fantasy thing, if you guys can hold off on that, because I know that the game was on Saturday and we're here on Monday, and so many talking heads have probably reviewed the game 1,000 times, but this is a weekly show and this is my only chance. My first takeaway, of course, you've got to give it to Jake Bates, the 43-yard game winner at the end. Amazing. We're going to call him Legatron moving forward. But it's been well documented on this show where I am not a big proponent of Jake Bates. I did not like this. I wanted a tried and true NFL kicker to come in, a guy like the Kansas City Chiefs had in that game Saturday, Harrison Butker, who last year in the regular season made 33 of 35 field goals. Okay, that's an NFL kicker. Jake Bates came from the UFL and made 21 of 28 in the UFL. Okay,
And
that oof, as Greg would say, oof.
as you
Right?
say that,
I'm
oof,
sorry.
that
That's just not good enough. And I get it. Everybody loved him. And Jeremy, I know you're one that was pining for him to come over, right? And Dan Campbell said in his press conference after the game on Sunday, he said, there's something special about this kid. Okay. And I think that's awesome. And I love that he made a game winner in preseason. I just have PTSOL, right? Post-traumatic same old Lions. And I just had this gut feeling that we're going to be sitting there with a game on the line, and this kid misses one. And it's not going to be like Riley Patterson missing one. It's not going to be, like Jason Hansen missing one. This is a UFL kicker that we brought in that was 21 of 28, and I feel like we succumbed to the fan pressure to even bring him here. So put it in the comments. Tell me what you think. I know you all love Jake Bates. I know you do. I'm a guy that was against it, and even though he had a great that's me right now. Thank you, Wes. Even though he had a great performance on Saturday, I'm still a little have some trepidation about going into the season. So Greg Rice, we're going to start with you. I want to know your thoughts on Jake Bates. Do you think this is a good move bringing this guy? Is he going to be the kicker for us for the whole season?
You're muted.
You're on mute, brother.
Dude, that take looks like it's sweet.
I know.
You know what? It looks like it's a great take that he's given us, though, I have to say. Jeremy, how about you? I know you were big on Legatron. I know you wanted him here, and I know that you were ecstatic when old Badgley got hurt and there wasn't any more competition.
It wasn't that I was ecstatic about Badgley getting hurt. I wanted him to earn the job from Badgley. And I'll tell you why. Because even though he was 21 and 28, all 7 misses were outdoor in the wind. All of his mates were in Ford Field. He did not miss at Ford Field indoors. We play 14 games indoors this season. So that is what made me go, all right, finally, we got somebody that won't miss in Ford Field.
That's such a great take, Jeremy, for sure. Is that true that all 7 of his misses were outdoor?
Yes, all 7 of his games.
I did not know that.
All 7 field goals he missed were at away games.
Well, there you go, folks. That's why we bring guys like Jeremy B in, because he's got such great tidbits and great takes like that. I did not know that. And if I had known that, maybe that would soften my stance on Jake Bates a little bit, right? That's kind of, almost gets a pass now that I start to wrap my mind around that. So I do like that. So
prior to the UFL, he also hadn't kicked a field goal since his senior year of high school, because he was primarily used only as a place kicker on kickoffs in college.
And routinely booted it through the back of the end zone.
Yes.
As well.
And I was there that Sunday when he was practicing opposite the field from me at training camp, and he booted a 70-yarder at camp.
I guess Dan Campbell's whole Campbell's whole thing is, look, man, I don't need somebody who can make a field goal from 40 yards. If I'm at 40 yards, I'm just going to go for it. So he needs somebody with a cement leg, somebody with a leg that can drill it from 60 plus. And that seems to be what Jake Bates is. That's why he raised eyebrows all around, because of those 64-yarders in the UFL. So maybe this is the guy. Dan Campbell definitely seems to like him, said there's something special about this kid. Jeffrey's take here is really good. He says the last possession Saturday was designed only for the coaches to see if Bates can kick under pressure on the road in a hostile environment, by the way, outdoors. And he drilled it from 43 yards. So definitely a great call out there, Jeff. Right. Chad with a good call out. We weren't the only team that wanted Bates. That's true. And he did say that he chose the Lions because of the familiarity of Ford Field. What you got, Jeremy?
The other thing I wanted to say is, despite his woes outside in the UFL, maybe he learned from those mistakes because he's now 5 for 5 outside in the preseason.
Good call out. So now I want to talk about Hendon Hooker. Hendon Hooker, in the first game, I came on this show after the first game and I said, he looked like it was his first game. He looked confused. He had happy feet. He sailed a couple of balls. The completions that he did make were checkdowns out of the backfield. He seemed to run after the first check and run. We saw a different, more poised, more mature in 1 week, Hendon Hooker. The game seemed to already start to slow down for him, and that was very encouraging. Hooker went 12 of 15 for 150 yards, and the most encouraging thing, a 108.3 passer rating. Jeremy, what did you see from Hendon Hooker?
I saw way more poise, way more confidence in the pocket. And the fact that on his 2 runs, the one he could actually slide and not take a hit. But if you look at it, he was 5 of 7 at one point in that game. And then he took that sack where he had the face mask where he was pulled down. And if you watched, his head bounced off the turf. I actually think that's where he was concussed because the next 2 passes in the red zones were the ones that was sailing and looked awful. And I said right there's something not right. And immediately he goes to the sidelines. He takes off his helmet. What does Dan Campbell do? Hit the tent. So I think he was concussed at that point, and the refs didn't see it.
And definitely the game seemed to slow down for him. Nate Sudfeld had a better game than he did the first time. Still threw a pick, still held onto the ball way too long, but he definitely improved. I've been yelling from the rooftops for the last month that we need a veteran backup quarterback because Sudfeld ain't going to get it. If Goff were to go down, heaven forbid, with an injury, Hendon Hooker may not be ready. It would be great to have a veteran QB sitting there on the bench. One name that keeps being thrown around is Ryan Tannehill from the Tennessee Titans. The problem with that, folks, go ahead, Jeremy.
I don't know why nobody listens to Ryan Tannehill and what he said himself.
Exactly. That's where I'm about to go with that. Go ahead.
I want to be a starter. I am fine with sitting here at home, spending time with my family until a starter gets hurt and I can walk in.
Exactly. And we saw Stephon Gilmore. He could have signed with 10 teams, but he was waiting and buying his time to get more money and get the right situation. Now he signs with the Minnesota Vikings and gets $10 million a year. So Ryan Tannehill, much in the same situation. He's made plenty of money. He said with his own words, like Jeremy said, he wants to start. He don't want to be anyone's backup. And if he sits here long enough, as this regular season starts to kick off, some quarterback's going to go down. And when that quarterback goes down, that's the opportunity Ryan Tannehill's looking for. He's not looking to come to Detroit and back up Jared Goff. He's looking to be a starter in this league. But there are still other veteran backup options out there. Brian Hoyer is 39 years old, but he's released by the Raiders. That's a guy who the game has slowed down completely for him. That would be a veteran presence to sit on the bench. And then there's no real push. You get a guy like that coming in. I feel better about that than Nate Sudfeld. What do you think about that name, Brian Hoyer, Jeremy?
I don't want to raise the age of our average age past 26, and he would do that. If I'm going to go for somebody, why don't you go for the guy that was the backup to the UFL championship and bring in A.J. McCarron? Because he looks totally different than when he was in the NFL. He's got a lot more points in the pocket and everything else.
I like that. A lot of chatter about Taylor Heineke from the Atlanta Falcons coming over. That's a pick that I absolutely like. And the reason I like it is because of the moxie that the kid has. He's been on the bench. He's not pressing for a starting job, though everybody, of course, every quarterback would love to be a starter. But I think he's got a lot of moxie. He checks all the box for me as a Dan Campbell guy. And he's a tough competitor. I like Taylor Heineke coming. Look, anybody but Sudfeld is how I'm feeling at this point. Jeremy, you agree with that?
Hey, we even signed Jake from State Farm. That's insurance. He'll like a good neighbor. He'll be there, you know?
I like it. Jake from State Farm. Right.
From State Farm.
And Jake Fromm, 6'2", got a big arm. He's thrown 27 passes in the NFL, which isn't a ton of experience.
And he's way more athletic than Sudfeld and Goff combined.
And he wasn't drafted, I believe, the 5th round. He was a 5th round draft pick. But he made some comments. He made some comments before the draft, something about guns. I don't remember exactly what it was, but it hurt his draft stock. But he had a 2nd round grade coming out of college. Do you think Jake Fromm is the answer?
We don't know. We haven't seen him play in an in-game situation since his rookie year.
I do expect to see him, though. I do expect to see him against Pittsburgh, if he's even still on the team. When they signed him, I felt this was because of the concussion from Hendon Hooker. He hadn't passed through the protocol yet, and they know they're not going to play Goff. That would give you one option, Nate Sudfeld, for an entire preseason game. So they had to bring someone in, right? And that's why they brought in Jake Fromm. So it is possible now that Hooker's back that we don't see Fromm at all, and he might even get cut. But I do definitely still want Nate Sudfeld gone, and I want to bring a veteran back up just to make me feel better when the season starts. Russ, you got a take on that?
Yeah, I was just hoping that you guys would get done exhausting all these quarterback ideas and realize that Brad Holmes was going to do the very boring thing, and it's the thing that he did, which is extend his quarterback for 3 years to have him here, and they drafted Hendon Hooker to be here for 4 years and develop. Now, the only way that they're going to pry Hendon Hooker out of Brad Holmes' hands is by bringing up a dump truck full of draft picks when they develop him. Once he gets to the point of development, he's already shown me enough that with his athletic ability, and he knows the offense good enough that he can come in and win a game in a pinch. So they ain't going to do anything, but all this talk is cute.
After watching him versus the Chiefs in that game and leading the drives back to put us in contention to win, and we eventually did win, it made me go, well, if it's a short injury, 1 to 3 games, I don't feel like the Lions are in a bad spot anymore. That's what I saw.
So you'd be all right with Hendon Hooker?
Yes, I'm 100% all right with Hendon Hooker as the backup.
So if Jared Goff goes down, we're in a Super Bowl window where this is a legit Super Bowl contender. You're all right with all of that riding on the shoulders of Hendon Hooker to try to take us to a Super Bowl this year?
Yes.
Unbelievable.
I am too. I think that Hendon Hooker is a better quarterback than anybody that you mentioned. He's better than Ryan Tannehill. He's better than any of the guys that you mentioned. Hendon Hooker is better right now for this team.
He's better
than Taylor Heineke, Russ.
For this, how many practices has Taylor Heineke had with our wide receivers?
And that's valid. Okay, that's valid. But we're talking about a guy who's a rookie, and we're talking about a team that's a legit Super Bowl contender.
Yeah,
at some point you got to bet. They have it. The contracts are running, parallel for a reason. The answer is boring. I mean, I know that the answer is boring, but that's what they did. They're like, okay, we drafted a quarterback. He's going to run right alongside this veteran quarterback. We may have 2 starting quarterbacks when it's all said and done. So we'll either have somebody that we can trade or somebody we can extend.
Right. And Jonathan says, did you see Hooker in college, Mike? Well, once, but she just took my money and left me hanging.
Oh, my God. I knew it was coming.
But, yes, I did see Hendon Hooker play in college. I specifically watched the entire Tennessee versus Alabama game, and he dismantled Alabama, and he dismantled Will Anderson coming after him hard. I saw all of that. And he was barreling towards a Heisman Trophy before the ACL injury. He would have been a first-round pick, hands down, maybe a top 10 pick. And when we drafted him in the 3rd round, and Russ can verify this, I called it Hendon Hooker in the 3rd round 2 weeks before the draft. I called it. We're going to draft Hendon Hooker 3rd round. And it's exactly what we did. And I was ecstatic. I'm ecstatic about it. But I don't want him taking his lumps, the learning curve. Every rookie quarterback, Peyton Manning, Aaron Rodgers, they never do well in their rookie year. The Super Bowl window is open for this team, for the Detroit Lions this year. I don't want him taking those lumps at the expense of this season. I've waited my entire life for a season like this to come along. And if Goff goes down, I need to feel reassured that there's someone on the bench that can win 2 out of 4 games. And I don't feel confident about Hendon Hooker doing that. Go ahead, Jeremy.
I do. And when you're talking about a short window, 3 or 4 games, I'm fine with Hooker. Now, if you're talking about week 1, Goff goes down, that's a different story if it's a season-ending injury. But knock on wood, Goff hasn't missed more than 2 weeks since he's been here. And that was due to illness.
Right. He's very durable throughout his whole career. Jared Goff has proven to be very, very durable.
Like, oh God, is he going to get up? And he pops right back up with a smile on his face. Who does that remind you of back in the day?
Tell me.
Matt Stafford, when he'd get crushed and get back up and smile in the guy's face and just piss him off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Russ.
When it comes with somebody being injured, the one thing that we have that we're not really taking into consideration is you've seen Hooker play with the second and third string team. If he comes in, he's going to have Frank Ragnow, Penei Sewell, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and all of the playmakers. And by the way, Jahmyr Gibbs and Montgomery to lean on for games that don't have Jared Goff. He may not have to throw as many passes as you think.
That's a great point. When I'm telling you that Peyton Manning and Aaron Rodgers struggled in their rookie year, they never had an offensive line and Amon-Ra in a running game like this either. So Hendon Hooker's definitely capable of handing off the ball to Jahmyr Gibbs. So go ahead, Jeremy. Did you have something?
Oh, no. I was like, well, Aaron Rodgers did have a great offensive line because he had Brett Favre's offensive line when he came into the league. He had Brett Favre's wide receivers. You know what he didn't have? A year of knowing how to do shit. Unfortunately, for the entire league, Hendon Hooker had one thing no other quarterback has had. He had no pressure to do anything but sit and learn a playbook for a year.
That's a great call.
All he has to do is get his mechanics back under him.
Yeah, that's a great call. He's not technically a rookie, right? He might be a first-year player, but he's not a rookie. He did have the whole year last year to learn the playbook and get acclimated with his teammates and all of that stuff that comes along with the growing pains of a rookie quarterback. He won't have to go through those things. So that's a great call out. Brian Nichols is in the house. What's up, Brian? He says Hendon Hooker would be a great backup. Our good buddy Chad in the house says they see something in Sudfeld or he wouldn't be here again. Well, he's really good at holding a clipboard. Maybe that's it, Chad. Maybe it's he knows the system and they think the light will turn on eventually. What do you say to that, Jeremy?
I got your answer on why Sudfeld is here. He broke into Will Harris's locker and stole that thumb drive I told you that they had, and which is why they were off the team right shortly after Sudfeld resigned.
You're going to have to elaborate on that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Remember I told you guys this offseason once that the only reason Benito Harris and Will Harris was on the team is they had a thumb drive of incriminating photos of the coaches. Sudfeld stole get back on the team.
Dun, 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 dun. Sudfeld is a snitch. He's a snitch, and he's Dan Campbell's teacher's pet.
He's an evil genius. That's how he got back on the team.
Hey, Sudfeld helps Goff prepare. That's what they like. A second set of eyes on the film. I know you guys got jokes, but I know what you mean by wanting to have a guy that can actually play quarterback as the backup quarterback. So I feel you on that, Mike.
Yeah, and guys, I think there are definitely two schools of thought here, and I don't think either one is wrong. It would be nice to have a veteran presence there in Nate Sudfeld rather than Nate Sudfeld. And I do believe that Hendon Hooker is going to be great. I really do. Go ahead, Jeremy.
Here's the other thing. This is the one thing everybody forgets about. Goff asked for Sudfeld to be back. You know why?
Really?
Because he's a little bitch. He carries his bags and everything pre-game. He does all that stuff. Goff doesn't have to worry about even chipping a nail.
This is like the National Enquirer of like football information.
Of Sudfeld carrying in
Jared
Goff.
I know, but it sounds so degrading. Like, okay, get in here, bitch. Carry my bags. Hey, Dan, you need to go out there and sign this guy because I need someone to carry my bags.
He needed a concierge.
Yeah, there's probably a clause in Goff's contract.
But my
Probably a clause in Goff's contract that you got to have Sudfeld there too because he's my bitch.
Michigan.
You know, Hooker, we want to have you be the backup quarterback, but I mean, who's going to carry the bags? Are you going to carry the bags?
Ryan Tannehill was quoted as saying, "I'm not carrying Goff's bags."
See, and that's why they didn't sign him.
Folks, you are watching the Main Event Football Show on the Villain Squad Network. This is not TMZ, believe it or not.
Unfortunately,
Chad in the house. It's Overreaction Monday. It is the Main Event Football Show every Monday at 7 p.m. And we are here tonight with some great folks in the chat. Put your comments in the chat as well. We're going to switch to fantasy football here in a minute. But first, Chad says, I think Vaki is making the team. Sion Vaki averaged 3.7 yards per carry in the preseason game against Kansas City Chiefs. He had 6 carries for 22 yards. He showed out in the first game as well, showing some real shifty moves. He's heavy hoofed. He's got heavy feet. He runs hard. He's going to be a stalwart on the special teams. We already know that. He's going to make this team, folks. And the fact that he can play safety just adds an extra reason to keep him. I know that he hasn't taken a single snap there yet, or even I haven't even heard a report where he is practicing with the defense. So maybe that's not in the cards for him. But Craig Reynolds is going to make this team. I don't care what anyone says. I know there's been some chatter out there that Craig might not make the team, but I think you're crazy. Craig Reynolds is going to make this team. Go ahead, Jeremy. You think Craig's going to make the team?
Craig is making the team, but so is Sion Vaki. You can say what you want, but Sion Vaki, while you talk about his 3.7 yards per carry, let's not forget he just averaged 15 yards a catch.
Right. And his versatility in the passing game. We may have got a glimpse of how Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell plan to use Sion Vaki coming out of the backfield with all those catches as well. So definitely, I think Vaki makes his team, and I know Craig's going to make the team. So, folks, that's 4 running backs that we're going to keep. But Zonovan Knight also looked pretty good. 8 carries, 36 yards. He had a 4.5 yard average. Bam Knight, another good running back. And there's still Jamar Jefferson, too. Look, not all these guys are going to make it. So, Russ, I want your take on that. Who makes the team? How many running backs do they carry on the 53?
I think you hit it right on the nail right there. I think it's going to be 4. And it's going to be Sion Vaki. And Sion Vaki is going to make it based off of he's already made the team on special teams. Like when I'm listening to Dan Campbell talk, he's talking about Sion Vaki, and he's just saying, hey, this kid is so smart. So we've taught him how to play special teams, and he's got that down. And now we're trying to teach him how to play running back, and he doesn't have that down yet. He even after the game was over, was like, hey, there's still a lot that he's got to learn there. But we like the process of learning. So the safety thing, I wanted to speak to that, was I don't think they're practicing him at safety yet until when he learns the running back position and how they want to use him in Ben Johnson's offense. After that, they will start cross-training him on safety, and he will. He's such an athletic freak. They said he did all these damn drills at and he'll keep up with it. So he'll be like the 3rd running back, the special teams ace, and the 5th safety. So he'll just be that guy here. So he is 100% going to make the team, and Craig's still going to be the 3 running back.
So Jeremy, you think he'll make the team as well? So you think 4 running backs, and that's where it ends.
Yep, and Bam Knight and Jameer Jefferson end up on the practice squad, and I think Bam Knight might actually go somewhere else because during
he won't clear waivers.
He won't clear the waivers. Jameer Jefferson will, unfortunately, and
he has before.
Yeah,
he's cleared waivers before and came back to. So I like this comment here by Algonac, Michigan. Who says, does Detroit beat Seattle this year at Ford Field? Well, they've lost 6 in a row to the Seattle Seahawks. And Dan Campbell himself is 0-3 against the Seattle Seahawks. Dan Campbell will never get the chance to beat Pete Carroll as the coach of the Seahawks because he's not there anymore. In fact, he was actually let go. And they bring in former defensive coordinator from the Michigan Wolverines, Mike McDonald. And that will be game 4, right? Yeah. Game 4. First two are at home, then we go to Arizona. It'll be Game 4 on Monday Night Football against the Seattle Seahawks. I say yes, Algonac. I say we beat Seattle because of the bad taste in the mouth. I think Dan Campbell cost us that game last year. So I'll kick that around to our panel. Jeremy, do the Lions beat Seattle this year? And tell me why.
Yes, because they're still going to be struggling to get their scheme together and rolling. Notice they have not played their starters at all this preseason either. So you're going to have that slow roll with a new offensive scheme, new defensive scheme. And everybody can say that that's all bullcrap. But when you don't play your starters in the season, when you have a new everything, guess what? They're all learning it come week 1.
Right.
Practice is one thing, game is another.
And he's a first-time head coach. Just like we were talking about rookie quarterbacks, rookie coaches have to take their lumps as well. This will be a prime opportunity to catch this team in Ford Field and avenge those 6 in a row losses. Those damn Seahawks.
But at the same time,
they snag players from us in the draft. They snag free agents from us. They've been a thorn in our side. And they are a fringe playoff team. They're going to be tough to beat, but I say yes, Algonac. Thanks so much for the question. He says, I can't stand them. We're right there with you.
While you blame Dan Campbell, I blame that bum of a safety that tore his pec on the play because he shoved Kenneth Walker down on a 3rd down stop 4 yards behind the line. That first down that they got equaled a DK Metcalf touchdown. Without that dumb penalty, he doesn't get hurt, and we win that game.
It's a great call. What I have a problem with is Dan Campbell letting the game go to overtime. That's not the Dan Campbell we saw. He kicked that field goal to tie to send it to overtime, and they came out and scored on the first possession. Sure, if we'd have won the coin toss, maybe we win that game. But if he'd have played that same strategy in the NFC title game, we'd probably be in the Super Bowl. Okay? Last year. If you'd have traded field goals for touchdowns in the second half with the Niners, we'd have went to the Super Bowl. Instead, he goes for it, doesn't kick the field goal, and we lose the game, and we blow a 17-point lead. So where'd that guy go? Where was that guy last year against Seattle? And he's kicking to not lose the game. And I love your call out by CJ Gardner-Johnson with the shove on K9. And right, that's a great call, Jeremy. And that, I think that's a point that people never talk about a lot. Is how much that cost us in that game.
Well, think about it. That's 6 points off the board in regulation. 6 points off the board in regulation. Guess what happens? It isn't a tie at the end of the game. We win by 4 and it's over.
Good. Yeah, that's a good call. And I think that's an understated point. Go ahead, Russ.
It's living in the past, going and if this would have happened and that would have happened. That game, if anything, it forged Dan Campbell to be the way that he is. It was like, well, you know what? Next time I'm just going to freaking go for that. And then I think that may have forged that mentality. And I wanted to speak on
that's a great point.
Why I think we're going to why we're going to unalive these guys when we play them, because I think that the defense is going to be such a difference. I think it's going to shock a lot of people how much better the defense is with this upgraded secondary. And I wanted to speak on that, the 4 running back reasons. One of the reasons I think that we're only going to keep 4 running backs is because the Lions have found some linebackers, some defensive ends, some other guys from other positions that at the back end of the roster, it's going to be more valuable for them to keep, an extra linebacker, an extra one of these pass rushers. I mean, who's this Agude? I mean, I've heard Dan Campbell talk about him, but then to actually see him in the game, just wrecking shit in the backfield, messing plays up. Isaiah Williams. Holy crap. Where did this guy come from? This was a different level of wide receiver than was out against the starters. Here's this kid coming out there holding his own and making plays against the Kansas City starters. And when it got to the second half, this kid looked like a man amongst the boys out there. He definitely belongs. So that's why they're not going to keep 5 running backs, because there's talent in other areas that are like, pop, whoa, where's this guy coming from? Levi Onwuzurike didn't play in that game. That might have been the biggest no-show that you've ever seen, because he didn't show up. You know what that means? that means that Terrell Williams already has confidence in how much effect that Levi Onwuzurike is going to have on the season. He ain't going to play no more because they already know. They already know. But the NFL don't know yet. Wait and see.
Such a good take, Russell Wayne. Lion King in the chat says, we can't check DK Metcalf. He's manhandled our secondary. Great call, Lion King. And to Russ's point, it's a revamped defense now. And maybe we got the horses in the secondary to run with DK Metcalf. What do you got on that, Jeremy?
I forgot. DK Metcalf was tackled from behind on that play, and the touchdown pass went to Tyler Lockett in the red zone. DK Metcalf did not score a touchdown that game. It was 6 catches for 75 yards.
Yeah, but he was abusing Jerry Jacobs, and he had a good stat line in that one. Go ahead, Russ.
Oh, I got a real good one right here. You better go check out DK Metcalf's stats against Carlton Davis III.
Okay.
Yeah. It's good.
Go look at that stat and see how badass he is. Carlton Davis is him. The guy that can shut down a guy like that. You got big physical corner like that. We haven't had that before. That's why we got that guy, was a guy like DK Metcalf. The big physical receivers have been owning the Lions for the entire Aaron Glenn regime. They've never had a guy that can check a big receiver.
That's a great call. That's a great call out. Brent, our good buddies in the house, says Pete Carroll's gone. Absolutely. Amen. The specter of Pete Carroll hanging over Ford Field is not going to be there. Chad says, week 1 Rams. How hurt is Stafford? If he can't play, how good are the Rams? Well, his backup's what? Jimmy Garoppolo and Stetson Bennett? I'm not worried one bit.
Stetson Bennett is there. And if Stetson Bennett is starting, Kelly Stafford is banned from the stadium because they don't want her doing another backup quarterback.
Yeah, but Jimmy G's a good-looking man, brother. I mean, maybe Jimmy G could be the man for Kelly. But I love it. Yeah, Matt, I heard the report today, Matt Stafford has a hamstring injury. I'm not sure, though.
Right. It's like what we got with Jahmyr Gibbs. They're just keeping him on the sidelines right now, not allowing him to do anything to keep him ready for week 1.
Absolutely. Lion King says Emmanuel Mosley could too. That really hurt. Yeah, Emmanuel Mosley can cover big wide receivers, and Emmanuel Mosley against DK Metcalf had great stats against Seattle. So that's a great call.
Rakestraw and Terrion Arnold are both built to be that physical. We got 4 cornerbacks that are completely different than the cornerbacks we had last year. All 4 of those guys, Amit Robertson, Terrion Arnold, Rakestraw, Carlton Davis. All 4 of those guys are dogs, like in your face barking type of cornerbacks, and they're all good man corners. It's different. It's just different this year, guys. I'm telling you.
At least Meme says Jimmy G's so dreamy.
Oh, there's a reason
we call Detroit Darcy in the house. What's up, Russin? Main event, Mike. What is up, Darcy? So glad to see you in here. Darcy says Jerry Jacobs and Jonah Jackson are coming home for week 1. Yeah, buddy.
Oh, wait. Jonah Jackson, who's going to be on the IR till week 6.
No way.
Yeah. He's got a hangnail again. He's going to miss 8 weeks.
And Jerry Jacobs, who's going to get abused by Amon-Ra, just like the old days in practice. So I did promise you guys some fantasy stuff before we run out of time. I definitely want to jump into that because I've got a couple of weeks yet before my draft. I draft on the 30th, so I've been ramping up for that. And I hope you're still in the chat here. Where did it go?
All right, we homered out a little too long, didn't we, Mike?
No, that's okay. That's okay. It's the Main Event Football Show. You're watching it here on the Villain Squad Network, and that is on Lions Villain Squad on Facebook, also at Villain Squad on YouTube, at JC Sports on YouTube, and also at the Roku, the Huddle Sports Zone. Jeremy B from Smoking Jeremy B's Kneecap Biting with Smoking Jeremy B is on the program today. Really great to have you here today, Jeremy. Thanks for being here. Somebody had a question about somebody had a question about fantasy, but I don't see it in here. Russ, did you take that out?
I did not take any comments out.
Can somebody take their own comment out?
Yeah,
I don't know.
They can?
they can.
Oh, so they must have took their own comment
all
out.
the way up, and I don't see any more fantasy questions.
Here it is. It's Jonathan. It's Jonathan. He says he's at number 4 this year in a 10-man PPR. So, so my advice for you, John, is to be in the 4 hole this year is interesting because you could get one of the 3 anchors. You could get CMC, you could get Breece Hall, or you could get Bijan Robinson.
Or
if somebody follows the trend and they take Tyreek Hill or CeeDee Lamb with one of those first 3 picks, one of those guys is going to fall to you. However, if those 3 go with the first 3 picks, you now have the choice of CeeDee Lamb or Tyreek Hill. CeeDee Lamb still hasn't practiced. He's still holding out. A lot of chatter saying Jerry Jones is going to get it done, but will it get done by your draft, Jonathan? I don't know. I think Tyreek Hill's the safe bet at 4 if you can't get one of those anchor running backs. I've done a bunch of mock drafts this year, and I don't want the first pick, bro. I don't want it. I don't want to draft at the turn. I don't want to take CMC and then get all the way back down, and the best wide receiver I can get is Terry McLaurin. I don't want it. Would you rather have Terry McLaurin and Christian McCaffrey, or would you rather have Amon-Ra St. Brown and Derrick Henry? Right? So that's what you're going to get when you're picking 7, 8, or 9. You can get Amon-Ra and then get Derrick Henry coming back. Or you can get a bell cow running back. So in a PPR, one thing you got going for you, Jonathan, is it's a 10-man league. So the pool is fat. So even if whichever you decide, if you decide to go running back first or wide receiver first, there's going to be a good player coming back to you in the next round. So there's my advice to you is stay away from CD at 4 until he signs his contract. If he doesn't sign his contract, take Tyreek Hill. What do you got on that, Jeremy?
Also, we're just outside of that. At the 6th spot is Amon-Ra. So you have a choice. If CD hasn't signed his holdout, I would be leery to take him right off the bat. He hasn't practiced. He hasn't done anything. He won't be in game shape. He's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to get in shape. And you don't want to be behind the 8 ball with a star wide receiver not even giving you 10 points a game.
Exactly. And here, I'll tell you another thing. Jamar Chase also threatening a holdout. Jamar Chase today actually said, I'm not going to touch the field until I get a new contract. Now, that's not the kind of language we're hearing from CeeDee Lamb. So Jamar Chase scares me even more. And what this does is pushes Amon-Ra up the board. It's widely considered that CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, that these guys are ahead of Amon-Ra in the pecking order. But I think with these holdouts with Chase and Lamb, it's pushing Amon-Ra up the board. And you know what? I'm not scared to take Justin Jefferson in the first round like some people. He had Nick Mullins throwing to him last year, and he was killing it. So Justin Jefferson got his new contract. I'm okay with taking Justin Jefferson in the first round as well. What do you got on that, Jeremy?
Well, 800 of his yards came in the first 8 games with Kirk Cousins. The last 200 came versus the Lions in losing efforts with Nate Mullins. He did nothing in between. So, yes.
He missed 2 games in between. He missed 2 games in between as well.
He missed 2 games out of 7 in between.
Yes, with a hamstring.
That's what I'm saying. He missed 2 games and kind of disappeared for a while. Jordan Addison became the number 1 target for everybody coming in right away. Jordan Addison was doing everything. Now Jordan Addison's hurt. Who knows how long he's going to be hurt? I wouldn't even consider him a wide receiver 2 at this point this year because he also has his court date on October 8th.
And also, TJ Hawkinson not going to make it back for the beginning of the season. So they're going to be down. They're going to be down a couple of weapons, and Sam Darnold is the answer at quarterback to start the season. Now that JJ McCarthy, tough luck for Skull Nation in this offseason has been brutal for them. The one bright spot, Dallas Turner, the draft pick out of Alabama, is looking good in camp, looking good in the preseason. That's the only thing saving Quezzy's job right now, in my opinion. But I definitely, until these guys, you know what? The best thing that ever happened to the NFL owners was Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell sitting out an entire season because he said, unless you pay me, I'm not coming. Well, you should have tried that with a different franchise because the Pittsburgh Steelers aren't going to play that game, okay? And that's what I think the holdup is with Brandon Ayuk going to Pittsburgh. They're just not the team, the franchise that pays top dollar for guys like that. They just don't do it. When George Pickens comes due in a next year, he's going to want top dollar too. So you've got to be able to balance this thing out. And I don't see Brandon Ayuk going to Pittsburgh at $30 million a year. If he's trying to get $30 million, he's not going to go to the Steelers. I'm sorry. But with that being said, Le'Veon Bell, that was the best thing that happened to owners because these players saw what happens when you don't play ball and you sit out because your NFLPA representative signed that collective bargaining agreement, which said you're going to get fined X amount of dollars every day that you miss in camp. And you know what? They'll never get that money back. Le'Veon Bell will never get that money back. And because of that example, these guys eventually fall in line. They get a deal done. And it's a very old saying, the best negotiation, the best deal is when both sides feel like they lost. And that's what usually happens in these negotiations. If you think you're going to come out ahead, Brandon Ayuk, if you think you're going to come out ahead, Jamar Chase, you're not. The best you can do is break even in these situations. What do you got, Jeremy?
You know who's been the smartest this offseason? Out of everybody that could hold out and didn't? It's Micah Parsons. He literally said, I'll play for the tag. I have no problem. I'll play for the tag.
Yep.
So if you ask me, the deal that's going to get done out of all three before any of them in Dallas, it'll be Micah Parsons because that's the type of team mentality Jerry likes to sign.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a great call out. Saquon Barkley, a good example. Signed for $100,000 over the tag number. That tells me he just wanted out of New York, right? He wanted to play for the Eagles. He grew up as an Eagles fan. He's from Eastern Pennsylvania. And the tag isn't that bad, man. You're getting the top five, right? Into what the tag number is. You're guaranteed the average of the top five salaries.
Yeah.
So I love it.
CMC at 19.5 at the top. And the next one, the bottom of the five right now is Josh Jacobs. That's pretty good money right now. So you'll get 16.5 on the tag.
Algonex says, what can I do in the 9 spot in a 12-person league snake draft? Well, I like the 9 spot this year. You probably, Amon-Ra will probably be gone, but you're definitely going to be able to get, personally, if I was drafting out of the 9, I was drafting in the 9 spot in a 12-person. Is it PPR, Algonex? That's what I'd like to know because that will affect my decision. I think you can go. I like balance as well. I like to go wide receiver, running back, or running back, wide receiver. I like to have balance. This hero running back strategy, I've had it work for me before, though, where I go receiver, and there is a nice dearth of running backs that you can get from the 5th round back. You can get Raheem Mostert, right? You can get Rashad White. You can get these guys, even Josh Jacobs going 2nd, 3rd round, end of the 2nd, beginning of the 3rd round. Aaron Jones. You can get some good running backs there. So I think from the 9 spot, all the good running backs, the anchor backs are gone. The anchor wide receivers are gone. I say you take, with that 9th pick, you take one of these wide receivers, maybe with CeeDee Lamb, or if they've dropped that well because of the contract, but they probably won't. Devontae Adams is going to see a ton of targets. Gardner Minshew named today as the starter. You know what that means? That means the 134 targets that Devontae Adams saw last year, he's going to get more than that because Gardner Minshew is not afraid to sling it like Aiden O'Connell, who was on a short lease being a rookie. Gardner Minshew don't give a F. He's going to throw it up there for Devontae Adams, one of the best jump ball getters in the league. So I think Devontae Adams is going to be a sneaky good pick. I think the Raiders are going to be a crappy team, but you're going to see a lot of targets for Devontae Adams, and he's one of the best anyway in the league. It's almost a shame that he falls down so far. Justin Jefferson also falls down so far, and they both fall for the same reason, quarterback play. But They both are going to be the focal point of the offense. Algonac, they are going to be the focal point in the offense. So if I was drafting from the 9-hole in a 12-man PPR, I like Justin Jefferson or I like Devontae Adams there if they're going to be around in the 9-hole. Luckily, in a snake draft, though, in the 9-hole, you're going to be coming back real quick, and there's going to be a good solid running back for you there as well. Any comments on that, Jeremy?
Yeah, I was going to say, when you circle back to that 4th pick in the next round, Travis Etienne, James Conner, guys like that, those are guys that win your championship, and I'm speaking from experience.
Right. Brent says, how much is Dak going to get? The drama in Dallas never ends. Well, guess what, Brent? My take is they don't pay Dak. I don't think they're going to pay Dak.
I think
they're got to pay CeeDee Lamb. They have to pay CeeDee Lamb. They are not going to pay Dak. He already makes $50 million a year. He was already the highest paid quarterback when they signed him that big, long contract. And now just because all these other guys are getting contracts, Dak says, well, I got to get more. I don't think Jerry Jones is going to do it. I think he's going to play on his contract this year, and they don't care if he gets away. If he wins a playoff game, maybe then he'll get paid next year.
Playoffs?
He can go test the market all he wants, but he's going to stay in Dallas if they match what they give him, or they can always franchise tag him. I don't think they're going to pay Dak Prescott. If he could win a playoff game or get him to the Super Bowl, they'd be running to Dak Prescott's agent to pay him. But I don't think they're going to. That's just my take. I could be wrong. Lion King says, I wonder how long Chubb will be out. I drafted. I don't know, but I did a mock draft today in expert mode with a 10-team expert mock, and Nick Chubb was there in the 11th round. 11th round. I don't care if he comes back till week 6. If he's going to be there in the 11th round, I'm taking him, because coming from an ACL, though, that first year back from the ACL, they never seem to be quite the same. My advice to you is I wouldn't take Nick Chubb before the 9th round. Sounds like you already drafted him, so I wonder what
Adrian Peterson's on line 1.
Who?
Adrian
Peterson's on line 1.
Right, and he came back in some absurd 4 or 5 months.
Yeah, but I think it was like less than.
Lion King says he's got Jefferson, Waddle, and Debo. I will rule. All right, I like it. Is Debo the number 1 receiving option on his own team, though? I don't know.
Yeah, well,
he's got a lot of value running the ball as well. Go ahead, Jeremy.
While Ayuk is out, yes, and Debo doesn't really run the ball anymore. Why? They have Christian McCaffrey to do it.
How many targets is Christian McCaffrey going to get out of the backfield? George Kittle is a target monster. Brandon Ayuk is a target monster. They just drafted Ricky Pearsall. They have another weapon that they brought in on offense. Just in fantasy is so big. The only thing that saves Debo is the runs that he gets out of the backfield. So
my wide receivers would destroy his wide receivers. I don't even know. My wide receivers would destroy those wide receivers. I can't even believe I got the wide receivers that I got in a 12-person league. I got Amon-Ra St. Brown, AJ Brown, Waddle, and Diggs. And to
the point there, Jalen Waddle is the number 2 option. He's the number 2 option on the Miami Dolphins. I personally like to draft the bell cow back and the target monster receiving, like a Devontae Adams. I'd much rather have him than Jalen Waddle. And they're being drafted right about the same flex. I'd rather have Devontae Adams than Debo Samuel. Lion King, you do have a nice core there of trio of receivers, Jefferson, Waddle, and Debo. It's a nice core. And Russ, you got a nice core too. But Stephon Diggs, personally, I'm staying away from all Texans offensive players. If I was to take any Texan player, it would be C.J. Stroud or Joe Mixon, because Nico Collins and Tank Dell and now Stephon Diggs, and guess what? Dalton Schultz is a target monster in the red zone. He eats a lot of red zone targets. Joe Mixon catches a lot of passes out of the backfield. That's just too many mouths to feed for me for where their draft position is I'm not biting. I'd much rather have a guy with a bigger target share on a crappier team, even like a guy like Amari Cooper. I would rather have a guy like that than a guy that you're counting boom or bust. He's going to have some big weeks. Yeah, they're going to Stephon Diggs, Russ, he's going to have some good weeks. I don't think he's going to rank where he did last year with Josh Allen throwing him the ball, though. So if anything, and where he was the man in Buffalo, he's not going to be the man in Houston this time. So I'm personally staying away from all Houston offensive players. What do you got to say about that, Russell Wayne?
Well, I mean, what do they send a second-round draft pick over there? I don't think they sent a second-round draft pick and go pay him all that money to have him go and get 6 targets a game. I mean, they paid him. They paid him some money, and they spent some capital to get C.J. Stroud, a high-end number 1 wide receiver. So I think he walks right in day one. He's the number 1 wide receiver right off the bat. He's got the most experience. I think he's going to be great for the other wide receivers in a room. Maybe not with his attitude, but as a football player, I know that people like to work out with him and to see his regimens and stuff. It's going to be a great thing for that room. But whatever. He may suck.
I love that number you threw out there, 6 targets a game. I think that's exactly what he's going to get. My opinion, I think he's going to get 6 targets a game because there just are too many mouths to feed.
Well, then that GM's going to get fired. I mean, go acquire a guy, spend all that money, and you're going to give him 6 targets a game?
Nick Caserio is a rising star as a GM. He's not going anywhere. Jeremy Ballreich, what do you got on that take?
You know what? I like Nico Collins out of all of them because he's the one that stayed healthy. If you have to grab an extra guy for a backup for a bye week later on, like somewhere through the 10th and 15th rounds, and he falls there, you grab him.
Nico Collins will not fall that far. Tank Dell might fall that far. And I do like Tank Dell maybe as a 10th round pick. And I do like Joe Mixon maybe 5th round, but he's in every mock, he goes way before that because, of course, running back is at a premium. Oh, what a great show we had today, the main event football show on the Villain Squad Network. Don't forget that every weekday morning you can watch the Lions Villain Report on this very network with your host, Russell Wayne. What a great show. You had a great run of shows this week, Russ. Kudos to you and the people that are on that show every morning. Is that music I hear in the background? Maybe. Another quick fantasy tip for you. Stay away from Zamir White. He's everybody's darling right now. Everybody's saying draft him. His ADP is flying up the boards. I don't know if that's because Alexander Madison sucks or because of what Zamir White did last year. But one thing I can tell you about Zamir White, he's a 2-down back. He has stone hands. He doesn't catch passes out of the backfield. On 3rd down, you're going to see Alexander Madison coming in. That's just not enough for me. I also think the Raiders are going to suck, and they're going to be playing from behind a lot. They're going to be throwing the ball a lot. And for a back like Zamir White, who doesn't catch the ball out of the backfield, I'm staying away from Zamir White. That's just my take. Just a couple of insights that I've had. Zach J in the house. What's up, Zach? Says the best ability is availability. Be sure to check out Elise Memes, the queen of memes. Check her out at Elise Memes. Check out some of the great memes that she makes. Joseph in the house. Sorry I missed the show. Hello, guys. We will see you back next week on the main event football program. So for the maestro Russell Wayne and for Smoking Jeremy B, I am Main Event Mike saying thank you everyone for being here with us. God bless each and every one of you. Peace out.